Hello, and welcome to the first of the board briefings I intend to do after each meeting of the board of the Office for Students. I'm Professor Edward Peck, and I'm chair of the OfS. So, our last meeting was on October the 8th. It was preceded in the morning by a meeting of the Student Interest Board, which brings together students and those who work around the student interest under the chair of Caleb Stevens, who is the student representative on the OfS board, and they discuss a range of papers being considered by the full board that afternoon. Really engaged and insightful conversation about a couple of papers that I'll come back to in a moment. And that was shared with the board and helped to shape and give student context to our discussions about regulation in these areas. We also welcomed 3 new board members to their first full meeting. They were Andrew Wilson, Simon Wilde and Jane McCall, all already bringing their experience across a whole range of sectors to our deliberations in a really fruitful and constructive way. Now, we're looking actually for 4 additional non-executive directors, and the details are currently on the gov.uk website, public appointments website. So if you or anyone in your networks is interested in joining us on the board, you have until October the 28th to apply. One of the really important papers we discussed was around the next strategy for the Office for Students. And thank you for all of you who contributed your thoughts and feedback during the consultation process. They've really helped shape what we took to our board last week. Now, the new strategy is being framed around 4 key words: ambitious, collaborative, vigilant and vocal. And as I said at the University UK conference and have repeated several times since, these 4 words will shape how we behave as an organisation. Ambitious means we're ambitious for all students from all backgrounds. Collaborative means we want to collaborate in pursuit of our objectives and in our stewardship of the sector. We want to be vigilant about safeguarding public money and student fees, and also, of course, about our own efficiency. And vocal, that higher education is a force for good for individuals, for communities, and for the country as a whole, whilst recognising on occasions there is still some progress that has to be made in some areas. Now, this is a shift in approach for the OfS, which we hope you'll see evidenced in over the next few months, next few years, and how we interact with you and how we behave. We're also setting some new key performance measures, which will enable the board, and indeed you, to hold the OfS to account for the key things that underpin those attitudes. For instance, how timely are we in completing our investigations and our reports? And how much impact are we getting from the insight documents analysis that we provide? We hope to publish the final version of strategy before the end of the calendar year. Moving on to governance. Now, I'm very interested in the topic of governance. I think it's something we need to pay more attention to across the whole of the higher education sector, where, let's face it, I think there's mixed impact of governance arrangements on the activities of institutions. I think we need to make sure we have effective governance in all providers across all parts of the sector. And that's a shared view, I think, now amongst most people who work in the sector. And that is reflecting the fact that a number of organisations, particularly the Committee of University Chairs, but also the Association of Higher Education University Administrators, Independent Higher Education, and other mission groups are looking at how their codes of governance could be developed and improved. We really want to start in our work with where the sector is developing its own thinking, both in what constitutes effective governance, but also, crucially for us, how can we reassure ourselves, both as a sector, but crucially as a regulator, that those codes of governance are being implemented rigorously in every single provider. So, we are currently engaging with those various mission groups. We'll be developing our own approach to regulation based upon those conversations during 2026, and we'll be writing to all chairs of all providers in the next few weeks to set out our approach and some of the concerns about governance that we have based on the evidence we've seen in recent years. We talked about a few other matters, including the current financial position of the sector, and we'll publish our overview on this topic before the end of the calendar year. We also talked about the performance of the OfS itself that any board would do at a regular meeting. This included actually making some clear commitments around efficiencies for this financial year, which will be delivered and monitored by the board itself. I hope this is a useful update. I'm going to make sure that the minutes and the papers that can be published are done so promptly. So you'll see that the papers and minutes from June, July and October will all be on the OfS website by the end of October. The next meeting's in December, so my next brief will take place then. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any comments, my email address is edward.peck@officeforstudents.org.uk. Thanks for watching.